JWClassicVW, and I decided to do the big review of the top 5 things that I installed on Goose at one of the parks on my way down to Galveston. And it's beautiful. I say it's about 56, 57 degrees out. Nice little breeze. So if you guys are hearing anything in the background, it is that breeze. And here I am. I'm getting set up right now to talk to you guys about those things. She's looking good. Beautiful day. So let's get to it, guys. Alright guys, so here's Goose. And if you guys are new to the channel, which I got a lot of new subscribers, she is a 1956 oval window ragtop. Let me go ahead and walk around her real quick with the camera so you guys can take a look at her from all angles. So like I was saying, she's a 1956 oval window ragtop. She is a resto mod, which means that she kind of looks stock, but there's a lot of modifications that have been made to her, including a narrowed 4-inch narrowed front beam. It's got a narrowed rear end too, 4-inch narrowed rear end, so that you can fit those bigger tires underneath there whenever you drop her down. The color is polar silver. Right now I'm running kind of stock wheels, 15-inch wheels with, let's take a look and see, 165/60 R15 in the front. If you guys can see up underneath, which maybe you can't see, but I also have a sway bar on the front. I run these stainless steel running boards. The rear tires are 185/65 R15, Continental all the way around. She's got a Fat Boy exhaust, a Sidewinder from AA, the 1 5/8 header system. Got a lot of work been done to her. I got single blades on the front and the rear for the bumpers. Kind of gives her that more of a cow look, I guess. Now let's take a look at the engine and talk about what's going on in here. So I got a number of parts that have been installed from CB Performance, including the space saver manifolds that allow the carburetors to be turned around so that you can actually get to your mixture screws, which have worked out really well. Also from CB, I have the Magnus Spark 2. I got one of their pulleys. I used to have a chrome pulley on here, but I got rid of that because some of the guys out there were recommending that I change it out for something that would not explode, pretty much. So that's what I did. And whenever you have a high-powered engine, which Goose has the General, which that is the General because of the 4 stars that are up on the General, and the cigar, of course. The General is a 2276 big block engine, and I did a whole video series on a budget big block build. I have air cleaners on both sides, kind of a custom setup there, that allow me to ventilate the engine on both the left side and the right side. Now, along with the reverse manifolds came CB's linkage, and I went ahead and added CB's IDA spring setups here, which helped out quite a bit for my my carburetors and the way that they return. It was a big deal. It was a big change. It was kind of cool how the kit worked out too. I was able to install them right here, as you can see, with the linkage. Let's take a look underneath the hood real quick and I'll show you guys what's going on underneath there. So as you can see, I got the gas tank that's been completely painted, and in some of my other videos I showed you the install of the VDO fuel sending unit, because I added a fuel gauge to this, the Vintage Speed fuel gauge. And I've also got quite a bit of work that was done on the wiring that's behind here. But I'm sure you guys are wanting to get to the top 5 things that I've added that part of the big review. So let's go ahead and get right to that. I'm gonna have a seat inside the car, so maybe we can get rid of some of this wind noise and talk to you guys about that. So let's start off with number 5. Number 5 would be the CB Performance IDF Update Kit. And what that does is it allows you to remove the stock venturi and the fuel rail that goes across the actual carburetors, and instead of you having just one little dump point that comes into the carburetor barrel, you have a rail that goes across and dumps fuel down in there. Now, I think that did make quite a difference in the top end torque that I feel whenever I'm definitely in 4th gear and stomping on the gas pedal. She just pulls away, and it's a nice steady go, and I have no issues with transitions in between gears. I don't know if that was the main thing that made that difference, but it's definitely something that was easy to install. It wasn't super expensive and made a big difference. So as you're looking down inside of one of my carburetors, you can see the actual fuel rail that I'm talking about. Let's see if I can zoom in a little bit. That rail and the insert that go inside the body actually are what I was talking about when it comes to the fuel coming right across instead. So yeah, that's that. So the number 4 thing that I've installed this year that really made a difference to the way the engine was running and just turned out really well were the industrial tins that I made. Check out the video over here, up there, if you're curious about how to make those industrial tins. Now, the way that these work are if you install a merged header system, normally you get rid of the heater boxes. And in my case, I got rid of the heater boxes. And the headers themselves, the J-tubes that come off the back of the heads, move in. So with the original industrial tins, they just wouldn't work, and they wouldn't cover up the entire bottom of the pushrod tubes. So it was, heat would get up there, and I was kind of worried about that heat causing issues with my pushrod tubes and the overheating the actual cylinders or heads themselves. So the industrial tins help deflect heat away and also help keep air moving the way that's supposed to be moving out the back of the engine. So that made a big difference. Number 3. So guys, I don't know if you can see or not, but we just drove through the Kima boardwalk area. I moved down here to film some of it, some of the top 5 things I installed, review. Yeah, it's over there. So number 3 for the things that I installed this year review, let's talk about the oil cooler system, or the full flow system that I installed. I wasn't sure how it was going to work out because it's one of those ones that tuck up underneath the rear fender, and there was some concern with possible damage due to like rocks and stuff like that kicking up on it. But we haven't had that issue. We haven't had that problem. But what I have had with some of the fittings, not the A&M fittings, the Evil Energy fittings, but the fittings that connect to the actual the temperature switch that allows the fan to kick off and on. There's some seepage happening there, and I think it's because there's an O-ring that's supposed to be installed there that I did not install. So go figure, I got a little bit of seepage there. But overall, the oil cooler and the location of that oil cooler has worked out great. It gets a little dirty because of the tire crap that gets up there. Let me show you guys real quick what I've got going on. It's not bad, but let's take a look. So here's the oil cooler, and you can see that it's just got some, I guess, just some normal dirt and crap on here. It's not bad because, you know, it's black. No one sees it. It's tucked up underneath here. And it's just, I think, mostly road dirt and debris that gets up on here. But I don't see any damage happening from rocks or stones getting kicked up on there. But once again, I don't drive this like daily to work and on the freeway or anything crazy like that. That some of you guys are daily drivers might want to rethink location of an oil cooler. So you can also see my oil filter that's up underneath here for the full flow system. Yeah, you can also see the oil cooler that's up underneath here. And now that I'm really close, you can see like some dirt and stuff that's getting stuck up on here. But the seepage that I'm talking about is there's an O-ring that's supposed to be on this fitting right here that goes into the temperature gauge, or the, not temperature gauge, but the temperature switch. And I don't have it on there, so I probably need to install that, and that would probably cure any of the little seepage that I am seeing. But generally, everything is really clean, and I don't have a lot of problems with oil. You can see, I run this thing quite a bit. I think I have a little bit seeping from my oil pump, but you know what? And now I'm just chalking that up to Volkswagen normal seepage and bleed. So that's number 3. My full flow oil cooler right here. And this bracket is available through Cool Rides. I will link this down in the description if you guys want to take a look at it. You could probably make one yourself if you got kind of froggy and wanted to do it. All right, guys, so to recap, number 5 was the Weber IDF Update Kit that helps out with the higher RPMs. Transition gives you a little bit more horsepower, I think, at those between 4,000 and 6,000 RPMs. The number 4 thing was the industrial tins that I fabricated myself and installed. But you can also pick up some industrial tins if you're not running the merged headers from Awesome Powder Coating. Check them out in the description below if you're interested in that, if you don't want to make your own. And the number 3 thing that I've installed this year is the oil cooler system that I have going on with the tucked up underneath the fender. It's kind of like remnants of older Porsches. They kind of had the oil cooler up there too. Maybe not in the fashion that I have it, but yeah, that has worked out great. Now for those 3 things, if I was to say what I would want done differently, there was a couple things on the install of the IDF Update Kit where it just seemed like manufacturer issues, where the little inset that's supposed to be in the sleeve that goes inside one of the carburetors, there's a little inset that I had to go in there and shave it a little bit more to get it to fit right. So there's some fitment issues, but overall the install was pretty simple and straightforward. For the industrial tins, you're gonna have to fabricate those yourself. I used a thinner metal than the actual industrial tin was made out of before, and if I go back and remake these eventually, I'll use a thicker metal when I do it, but I've seen no real problem with using the thinner metal. And with the oil cooler, location-wise, you're only going to want to probably reconsider where I put mine if you're doing a lot of driving, like your daily driver. If your bug is your daily driver, you're going to want to rethink the location of the oil cooler. Some people put that above the transmission. My only concern with that would be is airflow. There's a lot of good airflow where I have it right now, and I guess you could negate that airflow issue if you have a really good pusher fan or puller fan that's attached to your oil cooler. And maybe you want to make up some sort of box and push some of that hot air coming off of that bad boy into your car instead of having heater boxes, which is kind of a good idea maybe. So let's move to number 2. Number 2 this year, out of the things that I've installed that I really like, and I think you guys would like it too, is my fuel gauge. Right here. Let me bring you guys in and show it to you. So you guys have seen it before. It's the vintage speed fuel gauge setup. And the way that this works is you actually have to install a sending unit, which I showed you guys earlier, into your tank, and then go ahead and drill through your dash to put this in here. They also sell for later model Volkswagens that's, doesn't have the earlier dash like mine on the oval, like a little insert that you would put here that the fuel gauge, the gauge itself here would sit inside of, and it would look, dude, it looks super good. Go ahead and check it out up here. I'm gonna go ahead and just put a photo right here of what I'm talking about so you guys can see it. Yeah, right here, photo. But installing this on your oval, that's really, you know, that's up to you guys. You know, my dash was modified before. Like, I don't know if you guys have seen in previous videos where there's been holes that have been filled here, here, and like over here already, where somebody had gauges in here at one time. So I didn't feel too horrible. You know, this wasn't like an unmolested dash, so I didn't feel totally awful about putting a couple holes in here for my fuel gauge. But this looks really good. I love the way it looks, and also the functionality of it. Now, if I'm going to say like something that I don't like about it, is that it's kind of sporadic how it bounces up and down here. It's not like a steady where it is, you know what I mean? Like, and that's probably because of just sloshing in the tank. Whenever it's moving around, you know, your gauge moves up and down. But that's one thing I don't like, and maybe that's just a grounding issue. Maybe I need to work on the grounding for this this gauge, and then I won't have it. But let's see, if I turn it on right now, you see, this is normal. This is before the engine's running. Once it's got constant power, this kind of goes away. But and then when you stop, the gauge reads better, of course. But when you're rolling, or if it gets pretty low, this thing is bouncing all over the place. So I don't like that. That's, I would say, my one complaint about it. But overall, aesthetically speaking, it looks fantastic, guys. I really love the way it looks and the way it turned out. And that is my number 2 thing that I installed this year, and my little review on it. So the 5th and final thing that I've added this year to Goose, and it's going to be part of the 5th, the number 1, I guess, right, is the Evil Energy A&M fittings that I use. I use dash 8 and dash 6 for my fuel. Now, I guess y'all were all thinking it was going to be a reverse manifold, but it's not. So what I really like about this is it made everything so easy to remove, and also cleaned up the engine bay a lot. I really didn't like having all the hose clamps throughout the engine bay. Kind of made it look, I don't know, just not show ready as far as I'm concerned. That's just me, because I did run hose clamps for a long time, because you upgrade as you can. The great thing about this stuff is it can be a little bit expensive as you start buying separate fittings that you may need. Like I have 2 breather boxes, so that added a lot of extra hose termination ends and the hose itself. But overall, it is my favorite thing that I did and added to the build on the General here. Just because, you know, just easy to remove, and it looks really good, guys. It looks really good. I like it. A&M fittings are awesome. If you ever thought about putting any on your car, I would recommend it. I will put all of the Evil Energy stuff that I use down in the description below. The only complaint, if any, that I really have with A&M fittings is that when you're doing the dash 6, you're gonna struggle a little bit to get it together. The dash 8 is a lot easier, and you'll see how much easier it is when you go to assemble it. I'll be using it to make the connections out of the new fuel lines whenever I run the new line inside the tunnel, and it'll really finish off the install of the fuel system. Plus, I was able to use the same all the way around. It's readily available on Amazon, and yeah, man, it's just you know, it's my favorite thing. It's my favorite thing that I did. We did do a lot of CB Performance things, and I'm sure that you guys are like, well, what about the MagnaSpark 2, and what about the reverse manifolds? And those are all awesome, guys. If you guys want me to talk more about one of those in particular things, I will be going into more depth with the reverse linkage or the reverse manifolds on the IDF here, talking more about that in the new year, and kind of going over some of the things you guys might want to look at if you plan on doing this. There are some things on this that require some attention when installing it, so that's definitely something I want to cover with you guys. But it's going to be part of a one video that I'm going to do on how to set up this linkage, sync your carbs, tune your carbs, and make sure that you have your linkage geometry, is what I call it, linkage geometry, to make sure that your linkage is where it needs to be so that it all works well together. And that will apply towards not just CB Performance, but anybody running dual carbs. So once again, the top 5 things that I did this year that for the big review and for that I like the most are: number 5 was the IDF Update Kit. Number 4 was the industrial tins. Number 3, do you guys remember what number 3 was? Do you? Do you remember what number 3 was? Oil cooler. Number 2 was the fuel gauge. And number 1, A&M fittings from Evil Energy. So guys, that is going to do it for Goose and I today. That was the top 5 things that I installed this year on Goose, and a brief review of those items and some of the things you might run into. I'm going to go ahead and go over some more stuff in 2020, and some of the videos that I did in 2019 I'm going to go ahead and redo because I've got better audio equipment now, and I've kind of learned how to shoot this stuff a little better when it comes to video. Plus, I'll be getting my new camera early in 2020, so I can't wait for that. 4K content is going to be on its way. Once again, thank you to all my subscribers. If you haven't subscribed yet, consider hitting that subscribe on one of these sides down here. Hit that subscribe and enable notifications so that you can get any future content from Jason with JWClassicVW and Goose, my 1956 oval window rag top. We'll be doing a lot more stuff in 2020. I'm looking forward to it. I've got one more video this year that I'll be putting out before we go into 2020. There's an airplane flying above. Sound freedom. Here in the Kima area, we're real close to the base, Ellington, and they do a lot of sorties out of there. And when I was in the military, jets, that's sound freedom. Can't wait to see you guys soon. This is Jason with JWClassicVW, and I'll talk to you guys on the next one.